Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second shelf and to another recent reads on Sunday video in which you all know that, but maybe there are some new subscribers in which I discuss my reads of the last week and what I started and what I finished. So let's get into it because I'm already warm. It's the first heat wave of the year, what we call a heat wave here in Germany. So it's about, in the mid to high 80s. But for May, this is a heat wave. And before I just melt, I want to get this video done. Anyway, the first book that I finished was a buddy read with Kathleen and Adam. I will leave their respective links down below as always, and that was this book, Anne Quinn 3, first published in the mid-1960s. And Anne Quinn was a British author whom I've never heard of. It was Adam's pick. She died young. She committed suicide when she was in her 30s. And she is considered to be one of the experimental writers in the 1960s. And as you can see, there is an introduction to this edition by Joshua Cohen, who just happened to have won the Pulitzer Prize in fiction for his Netanyahu book last week or whenever. So that's book Serendipity. I haven't read the Pulitzer Prize winning book. I read the previous book by Joshua Cohen and didn't really get along with it. So yeah, he's not an author who is on my radar, but book Serendipity I love. Anyway, so this was indeed quite experimental. It's partly written in these short, almost poetry-like text fragments. Maybe I should tell you first what the book is about. So it's about a young woman, S. By the way, this is our author. I'm not really very, structured today, so we have to roll with it. Anyway, so the book is about this young woman who we only know as S, in her 20s, who has lived with a couple, maybe 10 years older, something like that, mid to late 30s, and she has disappeared when going out on the lake with the boat. We are talking about a summer home, a cottage close to the sea. And the couple she lived with, Leonard and Ruth, that's when the book opens. How the book opens, they discuss her disappearance. And obviously there was also a note, probably in the boat, I would say, because there's never any talk about the body being discovered. And then it's a retrospective look at the life of this couple and S's life and her observation while living with the couple. So part is these, like I showed you, these outbursts, almost poetry-like, and the other part is from the perspective of Leonard and Ruth, written in this very dense kind of there are conversations, but it's one very dense piece of text, and diary entries of S. And then we learn about the couple, and they're not a happy couple, I can tell you. And it's quite violent. It's quite gross at times. And it's a thinly veiled or not veiled at all critique of this very conventional, well-to-do British couple in the 1960s and their life. I struggled a little bit with it, so I was glad that it was a buddy read, especially with those poetry-like parts. I always feel that I don't understand enough of it. But if you are into experimental literature, even though it's small, it's not a fast read. So if you're into that, then I can certainly recommend it. I mean, I wouldn't say enjoyed it, but I'm really happy I read it. The other book that I finished is also not a big book, as you can see, and that is Velma Wallace, Two Old Women, an Alaska Legend of Betrayal, Courage, and Survival, published in the early 1990s. And Velma Wallace is an indigenous US writer, and this is a retelling of a well-known indigenous legend, centering around a group of people who are going through hard times, especially in the winter, and they don't have enough food. And so they decide to leave two old women who can't really contribute anymore to the well-being of the tribe. At least that's how it's, framed, to leave them behind to die. And then, of course, they don't. So it's about the struggle of these two women to survive and what happens after the winter. Don't want to spoil it. So I thought it was really interesting to read about this very hard life and about the friendship that develops between these two women. One is 75, one is 80, so they are definitely old, but they are not sick. So they are still able, to do things, even though in their tribe it was considered they were superfluous, so to speak. So I thought that part was really interesting, and also the description of the life. And I liked it that it was an old legend, so it's lore, indigenous lore. There is, by the way, I should have said that, but I'm not structured today, as I've told you already. It is the second quarter group read pick of the book cougars, and you will find links to the book cougars down below. And there is a Zoom chat also always with the group read, and the Zoom chat is tonight. But for me here in Cologne, it's 1 a.m. and I thought I might be able to do it because if I don't have an appointment early Monday morning, I might be able to sleep in. But of course, they gave me an appointment at 7:30. So I won't be able to join, unfortunately. But anyway, so what I would have liked to discuss tonight at the Zoom meeting is the fact that the two old women are considered also by themselves as a bit whining. They complained about their aches and pains when they were still living with their people, and they should have toughened up. And I'm not sure whether I like that message. So, I partly I understand. Sometimes you just have to kick yourself in the butt in order, not to be overly, whining about something that is not really important, or to be able to get over it. But on the other hand, especially with older people, I feel you've earned, in a way, my attitude is also you've earned your right to complain if you are 80 or 75. So I'm not sure about that. But overall, I'm again really happy that I read it. I enjoyed the legend, and to learn something about that life of indigenous people in Alaska was a real joy. The other book that I've almost finished, I'm listening to it on audio, and it's another Buddyread, and that is Elizabeth Colbert, Under a White Sky, published 2021. And I'm having like 5 minutes left or something, and I will have a check-in with Heidi later this afternoon. So I'm not going to talk too much about it. I love it. You're not surprised. Elizabeth Colbert. I read other books by her, and I especially loved her Sixth Extinction. She talks about the state of affairs of the earth. That's her theme. And in this particular book, she talks about the the future, how we might reverse things that we did wrong, climate change, the carbon dioxide buildup, if we change the course of rivers, things like that. So she talks about all these possibilities that we might have to still have the earth and us survive. So that is really interesting and engaging, of course. But I'm not going to talk much more about it because I first want to have the check-in with Heidi, because it's a buddy read. Anyway, I'm still working on this one, Small Bodies of Water by Nina Mingia Pauls. This is the what do we have? May pick of the Book Naturalist Book Club. I'm also reading this for Springathon. I talked about Springathon last time, so I'm not going to repeat all that. It's a memoir about water and what water and learning to swim meant to the author, who is born in New Zealand. But I haven't made much headway. I'm still only a couple of pages in, so not much reading going on in this one. So I will have to up my game a bit because it's already the 15th of May. I also started 2 books, and they are 2 buddy reads. And before I come to those books, I want to say something about buddy reads, because I know that sometimes you over schedule yourself and you just want to read what you feel like and not be, don't have a schedule. You have to read this or that book because you scheduled a buddy read. But for me at the moment, buddy reads are really saving my reading. I'm extremely sluggish. That's probably also because of the I don't do well in this warm weather. And the books I read for myself, even though it's a group read, but still I'm reading it for myself, I'm just not picking it up. I'm whining. And buddy reads then definitely help me because there's no whining going on. No, I don't like this book, or maybe I don't want to. No, I'm just schedule it, and I'm always happy then afterwards. So buddy reads can really help you, at least me. They help me when you are in this kind of sluggish, not really finding anything to read kind of mood. Yes. So the buddy read, I have a new buddy read started this week with Kim from Middle of the Book March, and we are reading an Enright Actress. And this book was published 2021? 2020, almost. This book, Anne Enright is an Irish writer, contemporary, and this book is on my list for the 1001 Women authors books I have to read before I die. I just started. Yeah, we have our first check-in tomorrow for the first 80 pages or so, and it is the relationship between daughter and mother. The mother is an actress, or was an actress, because she died quite some time ago when she was not that old, and the daughter now is at the same age, in her late 50s, and she's looking back at her mother's life and her life with her mother. The first couple of pages I really enjoyed, and I have a sweet spot for Irish writers. I don't know why, but I always did, and I still have. And the other book I started as a buddy read with Sandy from Miss Reads a Lot is a nonfiction, a memoir, the memoirs of Lady Eun Gyong, translated from the Korean. And it's not saying who is the translator, so I have to look that up because the pronunciation. I will just tell you her last name, Habush. So it was published in 1996. And if you remember, Sandy and I read The Red Queen, which is a fictionalized account of the life of this real princess. 18th century Korean princess. She was born in 1735. We didn't like the book, but we saw that there is a memoir, so we picked up the memoir. And actually, it's not one memoir, it's 4. So Lady Gong wrote 4 memoirs, one in 1795, the first one, then one in 1801 or 2, and then so the first one is I think the largest one, and we have just read that, and we had a check-in yesterday, and I really like it. I think it's fascinating to learn something about a culture that I know very, very little about, and certainly, I mean, Korea in the 18th century, about how life is at the emperor's court. The lady here in question was married at a very young age. When she was 10, she was married to the crown prince, who was also 10, and she started living in the palace. And there is a very sad story, because the crown prince then became ill and did a couple of things that were not, and he was executed. So there's intrigue, court intrigue, and all that. But I especially love to learn something about that life and that culture. And the memoir, I think, probably thanks to the translator, it's really easy to read. It's not. It's very vividly written, and there is some major themes, like the way everything is talking about schedules. Everything is kind of regulated by how courtesy, and how you dress, and how you address people, and how you speak, and so that is such a different culture from ours, and I find it fascinating. So I'm really happy that we picked up this one, and it is heavy. So these are the books that I wanted to talk to you about in my recent reads on this 15th, is it? Yes, the 15th of May. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. As always, I'm looking forward to your comments. And yes, I'm behind again. Some things never change. I hope to catch up beginning next week. I will do my best to catch up. And in any case, I see you all soon in the next one.